Hey guys, R Pro here, and in this one we're going to be talking about user input, and we've already got half of it down right now. We've got the output portion of the IOStream library, so we have cout, which controls output and whatever you're compiling your code in, and we have this guy that controls putting a new line in that same place. Now we just need to know how to do user input, and in that one we simply have to include one more object, and it is called cin. I like to refer to that as a console input. So now in main, I'm simply doing two output statements, and I'm asking the end user to type in a number that's not a decimal and type in a number that is a decimal. Now that means we need to know two new data types here in this video, and the first one will be known as an integer, and that's how you do that. It's just int, and I'm just going to use num1 as a variable name, and I'm going to assign it 0, and we'll talk about that in the next video as to why I'm assigning it 0. And now for user input, we simply type the cin object, and I said in this video we're going to have an operator that's real similar to the operator. We're going to have an operator that's real similar to cout in this one, and this is called the stream extraction operator. And I wasn't joking. That's what it looks like. And we simply type in that variable name, and of course our semicolon that we need. Now once again, think of this as an arrow. Information is flowing from wherever you're compiling your code in to the variable. So that's kind of a helper as to which object you use with cin. If you get these two mixed up, you're going to get a very, very long error message. Now, I just realized that I didn't show you an error messages and such in the last video, so I will show you that. Definitely in this video, guys, I promise. So I'm asking you to type in a number that is a decimal, and it's real simple. You just use a double to store a decimal number, and I'm just going to use num2. I'm going to go ahead and assign that 0, and then I'll say cin. Too much white space there. Num2, and I'll just simply do an output statement saying you typed in num1. Come on, work with me, dadgum you. And num2. And 1. So, going over this right quick, I'm asking you to type in a number that's not a decimal, and I'm using the integer to storing a number that's not a decimal. It's just a plain Jane whole number. And with this line, we're storing information taken in by the user to store in the integer. So in the next line, I ask you to type in a decimal, and we use the double variant data type to store in a decimal number. And in the next line, of course, we use user input once again to store a decimal number in the double data type. And the last line here, basically we're showing what was typed. So this is how you show a variable value in C++. You just simply use the variable name as so. So now we can see what this looks like. So basically I've been using the same makefile since the last tutorial. The only difference is I changed the executable name, as you can see, -o, and I've just changed that to input instead of something. And now we can go ahead and execute that, and here's what it looks like. So type in a number that's not a decimal, so we'll say 15, and type in a number that is a decimal, we'll say 2.5. And there we are. See, you typed in 15 and 2.5. So there it is, guys. That is user input. Now I'll go ahead and sneak up a little bit and tell you that you cannot store a decimal number in an integer, but you can in a double. So it's not going to hurt to change this to a double. We can go ahead and make this again. I'm pushing up on my arrow keys to run the last commands, and I'll say 15, 2.5 again, and as you can see, it does the same thing. So you can store whole numbers and decimals and doubles. Now, if you try to change this, for example, to an integer, say you got the data types mixed up, and we say 15 and 2.5 again, as you can see, the integer will not store a decimal at all whatsoever. It just stores the whole number portion. That's all it can fit in there, and we could talk more about that in the next video. So guys, that's pretty much going to wrap up this video, and the only thing I have to do now is show you warnings and error messages I was supposed to do in the last video. So here we are. Now for warnings. So the warnings are real easy to deal with. So we say we have another integer value here. We'll say num3. And we go ahead and make this. And that's kind of what these compiler flags once again are for. As you can see, we've got a warning for an unused variable. And that's our compiler helping us out, saying, hey, you're declaring a variable and you're not using it. So if you're not going to use it, get rid of it. Otherwise, maybe you meant to do something with it. So that's one example of a warning. Now, warnings are typically easy, and here is the line number. That's how you read that. As you can see, 15, and then here's 15. So they're really easy to deal with. They really are. So let's put one in here that's not so easy. Let's go ahead and get one of these operators backwards. We'll deal with this. Go ahead and clear this out, and I'll type make, and watch this. Alright, so if you look at the last line, if you've done it for quite a while, you could probably look at this and go, oh, I got the operator backwards. But that might be you might not be able to catch that right quick. You may be looking at all this and thinking, what in the crap is going on? So basically, the one dead giveaway, if you look through here, you scroll up, you'll see a couple of words through here. It's called iStream. There's another hint of what it is, but if you scroll all the way to the top, there's the trick to these long ones. You go all the way to the top, and here it is. No match for operator, da 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 da. And if you see anything like that, no match for operator, you basically look at line 14. Look at these operators here. Make sure you didn't get these backwards. So if you see anything that's real cryptic, or if you get a lot of error messages, always go to the top where you typed in make or your compile command, and look for the first error message and start from there. Never work from the last one, because it always the error message just sort of well, it sort of rolls downhill. So if you try to correct the last one first, then you're not really getting anywhere. So you always want to correct these very first error messages and then build your way down. Excuse me. So there we are. Now you've seen error messages and warnings, and guys, that is going to do it. So stay tuned for the next video. If you liked this video, you thought it was useful, please give it a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe. If I made any mistakes, leave it in the comments below. And guys, thank you for watching, and happy coding.